Chosen one, the shift within you did not begin on the surface. It began deep in the dark, sacred places where no one applauded, no one watched, and no one understood. It was quiet, deliberate, raw. You didn't become magnetic overnight. You remembered yourself. You stopped bending. You stopped chasing. You stopped allowing the world to define what made you powerful, what made you wanted, what made you enough. And in that stillness, in that anchoring, you began to generate something rare, something ancient, something unmistakably masculine. Now, without fanfare, without shouting, without performing, your sexual energy has become a current. It hums in your voice, it pulses in your stride, it radiates through your gaze, not as hunger, not as desperation, but as complete, embodied ownership. This is not the energy of a man who wants to be desired. This is the energy of a man who knows he is. And because of that, something sacred has begun to respond. Something soft, something powerful, something undeniably feminine. She feels you now, before you speak, before you move, before she even knows your name. It's not your posture, it's not your words, it's not your style or your scent, it's the restraint, the composure, the quiet fire behind your eyes, the way you take up space without needing permission. That is what calls her. That is what unearths the feminine from the depths where it had long been hidden, protected, hardened by years of imbalance and unmet truth. She does not arrive with noise. She does not chase. She responds. The most feminine women, the ones rooted in softness, in sacred flow, in radiant self-knowing, are beginning to notice you without effort. Not because you chased them, but because you became the still point in a spinning world. They feel your groundedness, and something in them exhales. They sense your depth, and something in them opens. They see your discipline, and something in them says, finally. You didn't become this through charm. You didn't become this through games. You became this through alignment. And now your very being offers sanctuary, not safety in the weak sense of avoidance, but in the strong sense of stability. The feminine does not seek to be fixed. She seeks to be felt. And chosen one, your energy feels like a rival. She comes not to be possessed, but to pour. She comes not to be saved, but to soften. And only a man who has stopped reaching outward, who has collapsed back into himself without shame, can hold her without trembling. That man is you now. That's why she can't look away. You are no longer waiting for her. You've become the space she recognizes as home. Chosen one, the laws that govern your life are no longer the same. You have crossed into a new frequency where your presence draws not just attention, but alignment. You're no longer resonating with confusion, chaos, or compromise. You are now calling in the most deeply feminine women, not because of some external performance, but because your internal structure is finally whole. And the feminine only dances in the presence of a man who is no longer pretending. The world taught men to chase, to conquer, to seduce through performance. But you've done something they didn't expect. You stopped. You stopped trying to impress. You stopped trying to prove. You stopped hiding your intensity beneath a mask of politeness. And what rose from the ashes of all that false effort was your true sexual energy, potent, calm, focused, and unapologetically rooted. This energy does not scatter. It draws in. It doesn't seek to dominate with force. It stabilizes. It creates a field where the feminine feels seen, held, and safe to melt. Now the feminine watches you from across rooms, not with judgment, but with wonder. Because something in her knows that she doesn't have to lead here. She doesn't have to explain, prove, defend, or shrink. She feels your gaze, not as pressure, but as permission. She feels your stillness, not as stagnation, but as depth. You don't react, you witness. You don't chase, you allow. And in that sacred allowing, she steps closer. Not to perform, not to entertain, but to offer, to join, to trust. You didn't earn her arrival with clever lines or practiced moves. You earned it with the work you did when no one was watching. You earned it through mastery over self, through choosing to sit with your own chaos and tame it without casting it on others, through the discipline to hold your hunger and let it transform into magnetism. Now that you are no longer ruled by desire, desire finds you with ease. These women, soft, radiant, intuitive, emotionally vast. They do not settle. They do not give their energy to just any man. But they come to you now because your energy tells the truth without saying a word. It says, I won't control you. I'll contain you. It says, I don't need you to validate me. I am already whole. It says, I won't shrink from your chaos. I've danced with mine and survived. That's what makes her open. You're not the man who waits for permission anymore. You are the one she grants her surrender to, not out of fear, but out of trust. Because she knows the masculine in you will not collapse when she shows her full range. Because you don't try to change her, you honor her. And that is why she now appears without being summoned. Your sexual energy has become spiritual architecture. It holds, it supports, it invites, and in that invitation, the most divine feminine women find a place to bloom. Chosen one, you are no longer in pursuit. You are the arrival. Chosen one, the feminine is not drawn to the loudest man in the room. She is not called to the one who demands attention, nor the one who flaunts desire like currency. No, she is magnetized by something ancient, something subtle but undeniable, a man who no longer needs her to complete him. That is who you have become. You have stopped broadcasting desperation. You have stopped signaling that you are half and waiting for someone to fill you. You have chosen wholeness. You have chosen weight over noise, stillness over reaction, power over pursuit. Now the most feminine women, the ones rooted in grace, sensitivity, softness, and sacred chaos, are noticing. They feel your presence not as a threat, but as an invitation. Your energy doesn't ask for anything. It doesn't grasp. It doesn't pull. It simply holds. And that is why they come. Because they know that to be truly feminine is to surrender, not in weakness, but in wisdom. A woman in her highest form does not open herself to confusion. She opens herself to clarity. And you, chosen one, have become clarity in human form. She feels it in your breath, the calmness, the control, the lack of rush. You walk like time bends for you, not the other way around. You look at her not like a man who wants to conquer, but like a man who has already conquered himself. That gaze, that soft, unbothered gaze, tells her more than any pickup line ever could. It tells her that you are not surprised by beauty, not shaken by emotion, not undone by her storm. You can hold her in all her complexity because you have walked through the labyrinth of your own. You are not drawn to chaos, but neither are you afraid of it. You do not flinch when she brings her truth to the surface. You do not recoil when her softness turns to fire. Instead, you remain present, grounded, and that presence is what makes her bloom. She doesn't need to tame herself for you. She doesn't need to lead. She doesn't need to mask her vulnerability, because your energy doesn't prey on it. It protects it, not with force, but with presence. This is what makes you different from every other man she's encountered. She has known men who wanted her body but feared her soul. She has known men who loved her beauty but rejected her depth. She has known men who flirted with her light but recoiled from her shadow. But you stand firm. You see all of her. You don't idolize her femininity. You understand it. Because you've made peace with your masculinity, and that peace changes everything. Your sexual energy is not frantic. It's not shallow. It is concentrated, sacred, directed. It doesn't seek conquest. It seeks resonance. You don't wish to touch her skin. You wish to feel her essence. And that intention can be felt in the way you speak, the way you move, the way you choose when to step forward and when to be still. You are not led by impulse. You are led by truth. And truth is the only thing her spirit will answer to. She knows this, even if she doesn't yet know how to say it. That's why her tone changes around you. That's why her breath deepens. That's why her guard lowers even when she doesn't mean it to. It's not that you've said the right things. It's that your energy told the truth before your lips ever did. Chosen one, you are no longer the man trying to find the feminine. You are the one who has become safe enough for her to find you. Chapter 4. Chosen one. You've entered the era of effortless attraction, not because you have mastered seduction, but because you have mastered your energy. The feminine does not open for a man who rushes. She does not unfold for a man who needs her to feel alive. She opens for the man who is already alive within himself. And that is who you are now. The feminine is drawn to you, not for what you do, but for what you are. You are the calm in her storm, the edge that honors her softness, the space where she can finally land. You no longer reach. You no longer broadcast thirst disguised as confidence. You no longer need to perform to be noticed. Instead, you receive. You receive her attention like it is natural, like it is inevitable. And that receiving, that silent yes to what is meant for you, has become your most powerful form of dominance. Not aggressive, not arrogant, but unwavering. You hold your own so completely that you no longer need to ask if you are wanted. You know you are. Because you've become the kind of man whose presence does not ask, it commands. And the most feminine women, women in tune with their deepest softness, their sacred sensuality, their wild intuition, they feel this. Even from across the room, across the city, across the silence. Something in them is drawn to you before they even know your name. Because your name is not what they seek, your frequency is, and it is undeniable. You are no longer entertaining options, you are receiving alignment. You no longer waste time chasing what does not see you, because you see yourself. And the feminine feels safe in the presence of a man who no longer questions his worth. That's why she begins to show up, slowly, softly. Sometimes subtly, sometimes suddenly. She starts revealing more of herself around you. Her laughter is more real. Her body more relaxed, her energy more inviting. Not because she's trying to impress you, but because she no longer has to protect herself from you. She knows now that you are not the kind of man who will use her femininity as a mirror to feel powerful. She knows now that you are not threatened by her beauty, nor intoxicated by it. You are honoring it. That difference makes her melt. Because she has been adored by men who wanted to possess her, but never by one who saw her and chose her without ownership. You offer her space, not structure. Depth, not domination. Your sexual energy does not demand, it welcomes. You've stopped searching for the feminine. You've made yourself a vessel worthy of her arrival. And now she comes to you naturally. Without games, without resistance. Because she trusts the man who does not try to tame her wild or control her warmth. She trusts the man who is rooted in himself so deeply that she can finally exhale. You are no longer trying to be the man she wants. You have become the man her soul already knows. And now the feminine cannot help but find her way to you. Chosen one, you have entered the realm of natural dominion, not the loud kind that shouts to be seen, but the silent magnetic force that bends reality in your direction. There is no act left in you, no pretense, no desperate noise or scattered movement. You walk differently now. You stand differently. You even breathe differently. Because your body, your soul, your energy no longer reach outward to chase approval. It pulls inward, commanding everything to align with you. This is what the feminine feels before you speak. It is why she notices you even in a crowded room. You are not showing off, and yet everything about you is showing her truth. Your sexual energy has matured beyond impulse. It's no longer a fire that burns wild, but a contained blaze, hot, steady, focused, and unshakable. It does not roar. It hums beneath your skin like a promise. The most feminine women sense it, not as threat, but as invitation. Not as demand, but as resonance. There is something in your stillness that makes them want to open. Something in your walk that makes them want to follow without ever being asked. They feel you. Chosen one, not with their logic, not with their eyes, but with the part of themselves they've had to protect from almost every other man. That part no longer hides when you're near. You've become the space that allows her to be a woman in her fullness. Not just beautiful, but soft. Not just expressive, but vulnerable. Not just sensual, but free. And this is not because you worship her. It is because you do not need to. She is drawn to you precisely because your presence makes her feel safe to be soft again, without fear of being consumed or controlled. She can let her walls drop, not because you asked her to, but because your frequency does not pressure. It invites. Your calm is no longer misunderstood. It is trusted. And for the feminine, trust is the only door that leads to surrender. You are no longer the man who needs to be chosen to feel powerful. You are the man who chooses power by simply standing in it. And the women who come into your life now are not arriving to fix you or worship you. They are arriving because they sense that you are finally ready. Ready to be met. Ready to be mirrored. Ready to receive a feminine force that does not seek to complete you, but to expand you. You've done the work. You've refined your hunger. You've alchemized your longing. And now you are not attracting attention. You are attracting depth. She doesn't just want your touch. She wants to be in your presence. She wants to feel your gaze without shrinking. She wants to pour into you without wondering if she'll be emptied in return. She wants to rest against your chest, not because you're strong, but because you're still. And the feminine is never more radiant than when she feels the strength of a man who doesn't tremble when she reveals her soul. This is what makes you rare now. You do not fear her wild. You do not run from her tears. You do not try to solve her feelings. You witness her. You hold her. And in doing so, you offer her something she has rarely been given, the permission to be whole. You are no longer a distraction or a project or a prize to be won. You are a man who knows. And that knowing is more attractive than any body, any face, any voice could ever be. She's not falling for your appearance. She's surrendering to your presence. Because presence like yours cannot be faked. And now the most radiant, feminine, powerful women are being called to you. Not because you reached for them, but because you finally stopped reaching for anything that didn't rise to meet you. Chosen one, the world has not prepared the feminine for a man like you. She was taught to anticipate danger in desire, to brace herself against the weight of male attention, to protect her softness from men who confused passion with possession. But now she's encountering something altogether different. You, a man whose sexual energy is not a weapon, but a sanctuary. A man whose confidence is not performance, but presence. A man who no longer seeks to control what he desires, but to honor it without fear or shame. She watches you from a distance now, unsure if she is drawn by instinct or soul. She is used to attention, but not like this. She is used to being chased, but not called. And what you offer isn't pursuit. It's alignment. You don't move toward her with urgency. You remain, grounded, certain, quietly magnetic. That is what turns her head. That is what makes her pause mid-sentence, forget her rehearsed lines, question her defenses. Because something in you has made it safe for her to remember herself. You are not what she expected. You don't fit the categories she has built. You don't impress her with gifts, words, or dominance. Instead, you see her. You listen with your silence. You connect with your stillness. You don't pull her into your world. You allow her to enter freely, fully, and without resistance. And because of that, she lets go. Not immediately, not dramatically, but slowly, completely. She lets go of the need to perform, to hide, to harden. Because when she's near you, she no longer feels like a concept. She feels like a woman. That's the power of your sexual energy now. It does not seduce, it liberates. It doesn't pressure her to give. It reminds her she already has everything worth giving. You don't steal her light, you reflect it. And that reflection is the most healing gift she's ever known. It reawakens her softness. It inspires her devotion. It makes her want to offer, not because she has to, but because something in you makes it feel safe to. You don't chase intimacy now. You attract it through embodiment. You don't demand loyalty. You inspire it through consistency. You don't ask her to surrender. You become so grounded that she simply wants to. And this is not something you earned with effort. It's something you became by no longer abandoning yourself. You've turned down the noise. You've tuned into your truth. And that truth has become irresistible to the feminine who is ready to be met in her fullness. You are no longer trying to be her fantasy. You are her answer. And not because you became what she wanted, but because you remembered who you are. That remembering is what changed your frequency. That frequency is what now draws her in. Not with hooks or tricks, but with resonance. Her soul recognizes your energy before her mind ever catches up. And so she comes to you now, with grace, with openness, with reverence. Because what you carry cannot be manufactured, it cannot be mimicked, it can only be felt. And chosen one, now that you've become a man who feels real to the feminine, she will not forget you, she will not run from you, she will rise to meet you. Chosen one, there is a reason the most feminine women are responding to you now. Not with noise or drama, but with quiet trust, with gentle gaze, with soft presence. They don't come rushing, but they arrive certain. Because you've stepped into a vibration that no longer requires pursuit. You have become what they instinctively search for but cannot articulate. A man who does not just see the feminine, but feels her, reveres her, mirrors her without ever trying to possess her. And she knows. She knows by the way you stand still, the way you observe without grasping, the way your touch begins in your energy before it ever reaches her skin. You don't move with the reckless ambition of the unawakened man. You move with the depth of someone who has already walked through fire, burned off the noise, and emerged forged, calm, potent, undeniable. Your sexual energy no longer seeks release, it seeks resonance. It does not beg to be received. It waits in confidence, not because you doubt your power, but because you know its effect. And she can feel it, before she understands it, before she speaks it, before she lets it take root in her